What is up, you savages? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analysts' work you could find over at MMA Junkie as well as oddscheckerus.com. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA, and that's what we're going to do here tonight. Whenever you listen to this, hopefully it's before the fight, as I'm recording this Thursday night, West Coast Pacific time, right here in Vegas for UFC Vegas 35, UFC on ESPN 30, UFC Barbosa versus Chikadze. However you have it, we're going to be breaking it down as per usual from top to bottom. And as per usual, you can check the timestamps for when that starts. Save yourself some time, although I'm going to treat this like an expedited edition, even though it's not Friday. Regardless of your time, if you want to listen to less of me and or shorter time, and I don't blame you for either, but you can always skip to the end where I recap my picks and plays, again, from top to bottom, keeping this format as simple, easy to follow, and like the breakdowns I provide, try to give you guys the different phases to work with, however deep you like to go. Massage it in there real light, or perhaps stay in a little bit of a surface value take, and you just look at the result. But either way, we got you covered here. And we're going to just do a couple quick shout-outs, recap of UFC ESPN 29, which was not bad, depending on what you did. We'll get to what we did, which was technically a winning night, which is always good. Yeah. Not going to do any of the reads or any of that stuff. That's just, we'll save that for another time. And, yeah, I'm not really too high on promoting myself too much as I have been, so apologies for that. So I'm just gonna try to keep it quick, as fun as possible. Maybe might do a new for fun segment that we'll see. It'll either be keep this fun, maybe it might be a fun idea to play with from time to time, or just another reason why that fucking crazy fuck just fast forward to the end, which again I don't blame you. So we'll see, but hey, it's better to try to stick around for fun than dwelling on all the negative in this space, which I guess will tie into the shouts to kind of turn those into positives. People doing some good work, right? So let's apologies for last week. Trying to do better, although once again my ideas were or my efforts, I should say, to do the top fives, talk about the some of the martial arts history, Asian stuff, all that good stuff. It didn't happen. I was going to tweet it, so good thing I didn't. Again, we're going to try to do a re-record, and no worries to Jordan. This is again, folks. This is your boy's fault here. But we will get that to you. But it was just kind of ironic because I was listening to, which is going to lead me to a shout. I was already going to shout their podcast and shouted their podcast on the said lost episode for Southpaw. But actually on their latest episode, which I believe is Pride Never Die, which is awesome because you get the LGBTQ perspective of MMA podcasting. You know about me, we definitely need more perspectives other than the usual and typical ones, right? I guess, or whatever. And not hating, I'm just saying, like more diversity is good, and that's an awesome show. And whoever the guest was, I forget, but it's in their show notes. So again, another reason to subscribe to their feed. Did a good job talking about some of the Asian tie-ins with the pro wrestling, as pro wrestling was kind of more their episode. But yeah, we'll definitely talk some of that for when we finally get around to the top 5 Japanese MMA fighters. Which at this point, I'm honestly just more excited to talk to my guy Jordan again, because he is genuinely one of my favorite people to talk to, regardless if he's a co-host or not. So wishing him well, and shout out to the Southpaw Pod, because they had another episode come out this week. I'm not trying to just steal TSOV pod shtick. I just got my shouts here, and this stuff needs to be shouted, man. And it was a good one, especially for, it's something that I've been definitely thinking about, realizing, how much, how polluted the martial arts space can be, and you got to kind of look around a bit. But they had an episode basically on faces and cult checklists, what to look for in groups. And it's for martial arts, but really, there's some pretty applicable stuff that's kind of not default all, but applies more to just martial arts, as far as groups, people, human natures, things to watch out for, and so on and so forth. So I recommend that. And speaking of that topic, again, it's been a really sad topic, because again, there's just a ton of, if you weren't paying attention, I think shout out to Dougie on Twitter, who actually, I don't think he tweeted at me. He was tweeting at a bunch of journalists, and fortunately, I don't know if it's something that many people cover, which is sad because it's a real prevalent problem, which is, sex abuse and grooming and stuff in all sports, right? Much less combat sports, and just really prevalent in BJJ. A lot going on right now with, I believe, the Fight Sports brand from South Florida, BJJ. I don't want to get too in or cite that name exactly, because maybe I'm citing the wrong name. Now I'm selling another name. But anyways, how about this? Go to the original thing I'm going to shout here to make it easy. Verbal Tap Podcast, which honestly, if this is a heavy subject, or for one, you're running the risk of listening to my podcast. You never know which direction I'm going to go. I'm going to try to keep it fun today, folks. Don't worry. But as far as like fun and funny, I mean, legit comedians / broadcast talents in Kevin and Raph in the Verbal Tap Podcast. OG's the podcast space as well. Also legit jiu-jitsu guys, very entertaining and informed. So just a good podcast if you're looking for lighter stuff. This episode, not so much, but it's a very important and informative one. Again, spacing out, don't have the guest name. She's a female writer, now editor, I believe, editor-in-chief possibly for the Jiu-Jitsu Times. But she really breaks down that situation with the exact names, people, places, times, citations, all that fun stuff. But more prevalent problem than probably many realize. So that's worth a listen. On the lighter side, I got one of my most genuine laughs from the week, listening, of course, to my guys, Gorgeous George and Ghost. Shout out to the Triple G Show. This was actually a Junkie Radio show. You can subscribe to the Triple G Show on their Patreon. But this was actually a Junkie Radio Show, and they were just talking about, I forget what the fuck it was. Shoot, it might have been... Was it? I don't know what it was, but yeah, about something. They're just doing hypotheticals about like if a bear is eating me, like at what point do you just give up on me and go save yourself? And it was, it was a very funny conversation, and I meant to text them because I think in the same podcast, Goes was saying he may or may not have laid the chalk on Madsen when he was nervous about it, and then I spaced it. I was actually going to send him a stat that I shared in my I think last week's show, if he caught that, and I know I put the stat in my breakdown, but it was the guy who shot at that monk fella. I figured that stat would have eased him, but no, I'm sure we'll get to that fight too. We're going to recap that shortly. I'm sure he just sweated it out like the rest of us who were on Madsen in some way. So good thing my guy cashed, and I wanted to give that show a shout. And lastly, but not leastly, on the shouts, I wanted to shout out the Fixed Fights Pod. I don't know if this episode even came out yet, to be honest, but I did a bit of it wasn't even a top 5. I think it was like kind of like an abbreviated, which made sense. There's 3 of us, so we did a top 3 MMA walkouts. Got stumbled on that. Completely sober, folks, promise. But and it's not even late too. What the fuck? But I haven't been sleeping good, so there's that. But yeah, they were way too kind, and gave me like some kind of a I forget what they said, but whether it's top 5 or top 10, that's nobody owns that. Nobody or whatnot. But as far as the top 5 MMA historicals go, I would argue that I think I've been doing them the most. If you look at it, you'll find older articles, like maybe like some old, like from 10 years ago, like shouts to Snowden or someone, like who are doing like some stuff on Bleacher Report, which I give guys like that, by the way. I like to think I'm really good and one of the more better people. Again, despite not a journalist, one of the best journalists in the sense that I actually shout other people. I get that right. I'm not afraid to say the names, but I gave him a shout, by the way, in that top 5 episode, Snowden as well. Lost episode, but yeah, they were just being too kind on that, and I wanted to remind myself of that and give them a shout and parlay that in a shout, because I was just kind of getting bummed out earlier this week, just kind of with last week, just like being reminded of like, Jesus, what the heck, all the many people that just do all of the facets of things that I do, but just better. I'm like, I'm like, should I even, as I kind of give up on trying to hit these, what I thought were realistic, but now just kind of mythical numbers. But yeah, I was just like reminded of like, and good on them, but people that do the top 5 stuff and then monetize it much better than me. And I was just like, crap. I'm like, yeah, well, no wonder why. Dan, you suck. So I started, going down that path of beating myself up. Remember what the Fixed Fights podcast said, and we're just giving me some kind words for being, an OG, although I don't think I am, but I will say I guess I am one of the most longest people, and more consistent even from the video mass forces out there doing their thing. So appreciate you guys, and apologies on the delays on all these top 5s. So without further ado, let's go into the recap. UFC on ESPN 29 recap. 29, 9 times. We went 7-5 overall, 1-2, 1/2-0, depending on how you look at it. In straight plays, I'll get to why that is. 1-0 in props, 0-1 in 1-0 in parlays, 0-1 in props / 1-1, depending if we count the ad, which we'll get to. So yeah. Sorry, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, sorry. We had Jared Cannonier defeat Kelvin Gastelum via unanimous decision. Again, I stayed away, but it went down pretty much like I said. More leg kicks, more damaging shots. It would be pretty competitive, but the more damaging shots will win over. Cannonier by decision, despite never going the 5 rounds before, and he did. Didn't bet it, so not bumping my chest too hard. Not that that's my style, but for what that's worth out there, given them the right picks and the reasonings, which mean more important to me, the latter. Mark Madsen, yes, water, please. Defeated Clay Guida. I think he asked for water in the corner, and I was just like, I started laughing. Please, water. Yeah, the prop misses by sub. There's a nice number on it, and the analysis was there. But little did we know, Madsen just didn't really, I think he tried a couple and then was just kind of scared off from the wrestling. But I don't know if he was scared off / either way, it was kind of stupid of him not to continue to push into the clinch, because he landed some really damaging knees there that I'm not sure everybody caught watching live that actually changed Guida's posture. And he did it twice. That made up for the hard-stinging shot that Guida landed earlier in the round that most were focused on. But I can't nor care to really relitigate the rounds, but I just remember that. And I wouldn't have been surprised if it went the other way. But Madsen, was the more active guy and, was throwing the jab, which is easier for a judge to digest typically than leg kicks. Although judges, maybe not so much in this fight, depending on your opinion, but I will say in their defense, I think they've gotten better. The leg kicks, they still stuck at body work and counters, but jabs are obviously pretty palatable as a score, and he threw enough of them and spammed enough of them out there. I'm guessing that's why. But yeah, I mean, you could have made a case either way, I suppose, but no issue there. More just on my wrong read, but again, that was the danger, I guess, for the Madsen side of the pick and bet, oddly enough, and him being the favorite, oddly enough, which was that he had, less sample size to predict these things. So yeah, but glad my guy goes cash, and anybody else who was on the Madsen side. Parker Porter defeated Chase Sherman. I mean, the epitome of 3-round cardio, Parker Porter. I mean, fuck, he almost cashed that round 3. I know my man Aaron Bronstetter threw a dart. It was one of his TSN Edge darts of the week. That thing almost cashed. Yeah, it was right there. But congrats to anybody who was on Porter. I know my man Braschuk. God, you want to talk about real Godfathers? He's the Godfather of the T-shirt in the pull division. Curious to listen into the analysis this week to see where where Porter moves in the where Porter floats in the pool. Yeah, hand the floaties over, baby. Vince from Hell, Pichel defeats Austin Hubbard. As I said on the podcast, I didn't play, but then by the end of it said I was going to play, and that I was going to play it anyways, but just by the end of the breakdown, as you guys heard me, I'm just like, why haven't I played it already? And so I did. It was the right price to play it at, which was at even money. That hit. So that was nice. Just kind of like I said, he just dogs it out. You just kind of start slow, makes you nervous for your bet, and then you realize that this is just how all his fights go, and he's gonna dog it out, and he does. Sadyugub Ramanov. Sorry, speaking of Bradchuk, I have him cock-Ramanoving his pronunciation of this name into my ear. Defeated Trevin Jones. As I said, as I could barely keep a straight face if you were watching the previous show I did with Aaron Bronstetter, I was just like, yeah, man, Trevin Jones is salivating because he's had to be on weight, and salivating is a dangerous thing to do with a guy like Cock-Ramanoff in front of you. And, poor attempt at immature humor aside, and disrespecting someone's name aside, Jesus Christ, Dan. That part was true. Trevin Jones, released a statement, not to take anything away from Romanov, but Trevin Jones released a statement saying he wasn't feeling himself, this and that, yada yada. I guess this was the other ad, and to my credit, I did lay this out on Aaron Brodenstedter's pre-show and tweeted it publicly. Alejandro Pantoja defeated Brandon Royval. Of course, that was the under, which was plus money and cashed. And even though it was a little bit nervous because it looked like he was falling downhill to pace, he was going to get drowned out by Royval's pace. But so does the straight play ad on Pantoja as the price dropped the day of. So I decided to pull it as a trigger along with that over, and they both cashed, which was nice. I hope they make Pantoja for the title against Moreno. Gotta happen. What a classy call out. I was already a fan of Pantoja, but I was even a bigger fan, right? Austin Lingo defeated Luis Saldana. I didn't really watch this one too much, so I can't really say. It looks like Saldana ran out of gas, but I think he also hurt his foot in the first round. So tough luck for him, and good win for Lingo. Brian Kelleher defeated Domingo Pilarte, cashing one leg of our parlay. Yeah, I think I ended up sprinkling a little bit inside and missed on that on the day of for some plus money sprinks. But Kelleher does the damn thing and gets a unanimous decision. Josiane Nunes defeats Bea Malecki. Yeah, man. Obviously, everyone's going to make the Andrade references, but I'm stoked for her, especially if she goes down a division. If not, she can scrap. Malecki, hope she's all right, recovers okay. And glad I avoided that. Bummed for people who were on Malecki, and props to people who took the shot on Nunes, because there wasn't many I saw. William Knight defeated Fabio Charant. Of course, Thick Willie. Thick Riri son. Willie Thickums. I mean, what about that hook? I mean, he's just so thick. I mean, that was like the perfect Thick Willie finish, Like for the guy that is he's just permanently the, what do you call the Pineapple Express, I'm a flex and bust out of here gif, the Danny McBride gif, right? Like that is a Thick Willie submission defense. Like for him to just get a Thick Willie hook, a Thick Willie check hook, where he just kind of lobs a straight arm and just knocks a guy like Family Guy dead. Like there's dead, and there's Family Guy dead, which we'll get to in the breakdown coming up. But again, I'm sympathy and a sucker for Sharon's story, but I was all team Thick Willie there, and again, I'll make the counter to what's the obvious joke that I'm leading into here. with Thick Willie. But to touch on the deeper, my conscience is getting better at me. I'm just like, I'm trying to go, hey, listen, at least I talk about, at least I sexualize males and not females, right? I'm countering the ship that way, right? But then I feel bad because, I'm like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to make the same mistake and, overly sexualize black men. But I'm like, you know what? No, I do it to other people. And I think, who did I pick out? I was like Musasi and Benil. I'm like, okay, I realize I'm like picking all like POC or people like Global South looking. Let's reach out and speaking of a retirement this last week that I didn't touch on, Phil Baroni was probably another name to balance out the pack I should have brought up there. Italian hog action to the rescue, right? Jesus, that guy posting his piece about shout out to the Naked Gambler for still one of the funniest Twitter posts, quote tweets ever. But again, just try to further prove, and I've talked about some Baroni hog on this podcast before, folks. You know me. So again, just trying to point out, I do spread out the hog talk. I try to stay fair, and again, while most in the media still just, and again, I love women just as much as the next, I guess, straight man, or bi man, or gay woman, or bi woman, as much as the next person, okay? But I'm just saying, there's enough of sexualizing women in general, much less in a very misogynistic sport. Let's sexualize the men for a change. That's what me and people like Ben Cohn, the MMA analysis as well. Fighting the good fight there. Jesus damn, well that's a stretch. All right, moving on. Thick Willie though, thank you for cashing that. Willie Thickums. We got to get that movement going on. We got to get it going on. I was tweeting it out to Chad Dundas to be one of his guys, and I was hoping he would say it on the co-main event podcast, but no dice. We had to get Thick Willie to turn into a movement, folks. All right, Dan, move on from the Thick Willie. Here's where I was wrong, man. All props. Ignacio Bahamondes defeated Roosevelt Roberts. Boy, I'm glad I only sprinkled light on Roosevelt. In something fun that obviously didn't cash because he ended up on the mat and would have not cashed anyways because he was distinctively losing. Yeah, he couldn't get to the ground, and I kind of knew where the fight was going. I didn't see the spin kick knockout, but I did know he was going to lose. Made peace with that, to be honest, in round one after my question was answered or what I was banking on. I think I sprinkled the sub prop as well in another house, and that, of course, did not hit. But, again, I've been hard on his coach, Mike Valley, although, again, a lot of his stuff, he came up in South America under his father as his coach. But Mike Valley's been working with him since he was like 17. Has put a lot of work into the kid as well. Deserves a ton of credit as well. And deserves a ton of credit from me, who had been hard on him because, a lot of his fighters have been on a losing trend. I saw a lot of the spinning stuff in the power work. I don't know how practical that is. In his defense, he had an inconsistent, both with himself and with the camps / working with him. And Yair Rodriguez is probably one of his more star pupils who could only strike from one side. So on and so forth, right? But there's some really good things going on there. Again, Bilal looked great with his striking, but Bilal was kind of already... he only recently joined up with them, so I wasn't sure how much of it was Rufus Sport and Duke Rufus as opposed to Mike Valley. But, man, Mike Valley's making his mark. Shut me up right there. Got to give him nothing but credit. Happy for Bob Mundez. Seems like a nice kid. And that highlight reel is going to be on it for forever, and it almost makes me upset that these... It does continually make me upset that these bonuses... they need to have an evergreen bonus that either collects with the views or is just a flat fee that's just more than whatever 50 or even the 75 bonus K night. Like, it's got to be 200K and above, and you still could argue it should be more for these evergreen bonuses that are going on highlight reels. If anything, it's just you don't have to pay one of those out. You aren't obligated to give one. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's not even like you'd be giving them out. You're forcing yourself to give one UFC. Just do it for these guys, man. They deserve it. Props to Bob Mundez. The submission prop I should have bet because I called this one was Ramiz Brahimaj defeating Sasha Palatnikov again, which is a method I'll be going with here. Going with a better on-paper grappler in the smaller cage. And so it was Brahimaj, and so it happened. So there's that. All right, how do we do? It's a time 25 minute. All right, we're gonna move on to UFC on ESPN 30. UFC Vegas 35 5 question mark. UFC Barboza versus Chikadze. Of course, Barboza minus 115, Chikadze minus 105. I refreshed to make sure that he still is the case. Yeah, pretty much. But Barboza opened as a favorite, minus 150. He should be the favorite. You could argue even more than that. But as many know, it's no secret, I was really hoping for the line to flip, which I don't think we're going to get now. So I'm probably going to have to pull the trigger once I can see a minus 115 at even. That's the only way I can justify it. I could justify it, to be honest, with how strongly I feel. But there are, after running Chikadze back through the entire comb, I went back and watched everything possible on him, from kickboxing to MMA. Much more of an understanding of his game, but also still validated in a lot of the thoughts I had. And the ultimate underlying problematic themes will be what has me picking against him, but I will outline the parts of his game that are definitely worthwhile respecting and that could earn him a win. Okay, so we'll cover that too. And I also just want to say that, I know I've been hard on, it's not Chikadze, because, by the way, something I wish was promoted more by my fellow media. I know Bronstetter asked him about it, but or to the broadcast alike, is which they brought it up too, but I still feel like this stuff should be brought up more. His knockout cancer thing, he didn't call it the Giga Cancer Fund to make fun of his Giga kick and his appropriation as far as that goes, but no, he really is legit. From his kickboxing to even early MMA, and granted, small purses like with but still, just the fact that him and his family set up a fund to fight cancer, and every part of his purse goes to somebody. He lost his mother to cancer. His dad seems like a jovial dude. I got nothing for love for Chikadze for all that stuff. And even stylistically, he comes from not my karate base. He comes from Goju Ryu. I can briefly talk about those if you want, but yeah, he's a traditional martial arts guy who can, even though he's not a dedicated southpaw, he can do work from southpaw. The fuck, you don't think I, appreciate this kind of a guy? You think I should be like a Team Chikadze guy? Really? And then you got my man John Rico, friend of the podcast, trains at Kings MMA. He's probably gonna hate me when I start to criticize Giga, on the other hand, from a stylistic perspective. But there's plenty to like about Giga. There's plenty that I like, and plenty of reason for me and for you to like him. That's fine. I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. What I do find disrespectful is the betting line and the hype this kid gets. I know hype is a normal thing, and I understand that as my contrarian nature has me hardwired to do, that I naturally want to poke holes when I see hype, especially when it's, the typical trope that tends to piss me off, because, me, I'm the old guy lover over here. That sounds really creepy. That sounded weird. Wow, phrasing. I'm the veteran fighter lover. All right, that sounds better. Jesus Christ. Wow. Welcome to my new YouTube channel, guys. No, Jesus. But what the fuck was I saying? Wow, I really sidetracked myself with that. But no, when I see the betting trend of MMA bettors, betting the sexy striker, the opportunistic knockout guy with the unproven sample size against the proven veteran, right? I don't like seeing those. And more than that, and again, I'm not trying to I know people in the UFC broadcasts. I like people in the UFC broadcasts. I like Joe Valtellini's broadcasting on Glorious. He was probably the only person that was, semi-realistic about Giga's game. Because I don't know what it is. I don't know if something in Giga's contract where he's like, part of my purse goes to cancer, but here's the other thing. The commentators, no matter if it's kickboxing or MMA, they must fillet me the best way possible verbally during the fight, no matter how the fight's going. I swear that's got to be written into the contract. Because, it's just Giga would be clearly gassing, and they'd be like, he's worked a lot on his strength and conditioning since his cardio criticisms. Sure, he's slowing down now, but I think he's just managing his pace. Yeah, I think he's just waiting for his right moment. the gymnastics that commentators are just bending over backwards to make sure they can cup the balls while they get the Giga shafts in their mouth is fucking amazing. I mean, I really got to work on my stretching, guys. It is fucking, I mean, the way they fillet and suck him off, like, it is just like, it's, it's hard to speak with Giga's cock down my throat, but I really feel like he landed a hard kick there. Like, it is ridiculous. Like, holy shit. And the judges, too, because you thought the guy got some sketchy splits in MMA, which aren't sketchy when you look back at them. The Davis one, and you can even make the argument, depending on what you see and what you value, as far as when you go back and look, especially with the judging trends, as far as, and criteria goes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be overly critical, but oh my God, you go to his kickboxing and there's just straight up fights he fucking lost. I'm like, you fucking lost that fight, bro. Like, holy shit. He gets that rough. And it goes down the same. He's got a strong first round, and he looks still dangerous in the beginning of the second, but by the end of the second, he looks like a different fighter. And he's just kind of surviving, and he will explode. And he's game. He's super athletic, even though he looks kind of like a, awkward Birdman kind of a dude with weird mechanics. But it's super strong, athletic, and explosive. It's just kind of more of a jank. Athletic, which probably has to do with that more Goju Ryu hard soft style, obviously preferring more of the hard attacks with what he with the part of martial arts that he decided to dive into, right? And the competitive combat side of it, right? Goju Ryu, for those who don't know, kind of notes itself as the more harder soft style. And not a point karate. I've heard him referred to that too, and he's not a point karate. In fact, he shows a lot of his Goju Ryu, even though he can do some in and out stuff, it's more distance management, and you see it in he's got more of those karate style counter crosses from both stances that are pretty darn accurate and worth watching for here, by the way. But it's not like the Wonder Boy leaping in and leaping out, the Kempo karate and sport karate or American karate. Depending on how you want to phrase it or say it. It's the kind of stuff that I did, essentially, right? It's a different style. It's, again, more of the hard style, heavier set style. Shotokan, something I would refer to as a heavier set style. That's Machida, and Machida can still do the in and out, though. And again, what Machida's doing, even in that version of the in and out, it's not like what Chikadze's doing. So, a lot of that lazy karate analysis, and I wouldn't even tell my karate analysis isn't anything special, but my God, am I just reminded by like when I hear other people's karate analysis, or you want to talk about karate combat right now. All right, but we'll just yeah. Anyways, who the fuck cares? Someone else talking like on Twitter, some dude like ridiculous amount of followers. YouTubers. I'm just like, who the fuck is this? It was Noah's tweet like, oh, Kelvin must be some kind of karate master with the way he moves. I'm like, because he has a hopping, because he hops on the ball of his feet with a cadence that he's literally done since his first fight in the UFC. But people acting like it's new. But what the fuck do I know? Actual person who watches footage, actual person who comes from karate background. Doesn't mean shit these days, or it never did. But especially doesn't. That's what I'm learning. But yeah, Chikadze doesn't do that, but he does show some nods to his kind of more Goju Ryu style and more of these, more traditional set styles of karate, as far as like he'll throw the couple body punches and then he'll come up high with a head kick, despite standing not in kissing range, but at a very close, what you think would be non-kicking, much less non-head kicking range. But you go watch a lot of of not point karate sparring of whether it's Goju Ryu or Shotokan or different styles. You'll see that, right, where they're allowed to hit the body and not go, not like pancrase slap to the head, but it's go to the body, kick to the heads are open. I'm trying to equate it to an MMA rule set, I guess, since this is an MMA show. But yeah, Chikadze shows more nods to that. Not so much. He's actually improved a lot in his boxing, which is good, both in his head movement head movement, and his jab. He still throws a lot of single shot variants, and I know, you can find stuff in his kickboxing where he's throwing more shots, but that's the thing. When kickbox, especially when they go to MMA, they limit their shot selection. And Jacotzi, that you can find moments where he's unleashing on. By the way, if you go follow these people, even in kickboxing, are cans or people who didn't like. I feel like the Ken Tran guy, he fought Roy McDonald, yeah, but he didn't fight in 5 years. He came off the couch for that fight. Or they fight other guys who were 3-5 and on a 3-fight knockout losing streak before they fought Giga. In other words, all the matchmaking that he's pretty much got almost his whole way in MMA, he was getting that in kickboxing too, if not worse, with the way the things that kickboxing can sometimes get away with. So yeah, he even in kickboxing, when he starts to throw more than 2 strikes, was when he either got into trouble or put himself in position to be in trouble / bad spots. That is doubly true, I believe, in MMA because of the smaller gloves, the takedown threats, so on and so forth. So he really almost sticks to more of that Timur Valiev style single / 1-2 shot, 1-2 setup shot variants. So, it's either one shot or one shot to set up an immediate other type of sequencing. Of course, the Giga kick, the liver kick, his left power kick to the liver, he can, with his weird mechanics, it actually works really well as far as disguising that jank, disguising the question mark to go up top. And he's also seemed to be fond of calf kicks in his last few fights, from the orthodox stance especially, which is actually relevant here because good leg kickers doesn't mean they can't be kicked. Not everybody is Jose Aldo. And Barbosa, even though he is one of the best leg kickers in the sport like Jose, he is not as defensively sound as Jose, obviously, but not even in his own arena of the leg kicks. He actually takes them at a high clip, as well as Giga. Giga's never check kicks well either, though, which is another thing I noticed. Even in kickboxing, when you didn't have to worry about the takedowns, I literally saw him maybe check 2 kicks. And I watched everything I could possibly scour the internet for on Giga multiple times to some fights. And maybe 2 checks. He either gets out of the way or decides to eat it and counter. And that could be fine, but if he can't put Barbosa away, Barbosa can be rocked here and there for sure, which is why made people surmise, and to a losing percentage, people have surmised that he's had chin problems. And I was more on that board when he dropped down officially, and I got away caught speeding by fading him there against Ige. But make no illusion, with my bias aside, I can readily admit that was a close fight that should have gone to Barbosa's way. If I'm being completely honest, am I happy? Did I pick Ige? Yeah. Am I happy for Ige and his team? Fuck yeah. Am I happy for my bet? Fuck yeah. But, if you look at it, especially body damage, something that I always preach, and I'm going to keep that same energy, and Barbosa should have won. But, of course, judges, they completely missed Ige, hurt to the body. And instead of getting knocked down for it, he did the smart thing where he kind of did a guard pull. So, to the judges, he bullshitted him enough to make it look like he meant to do that. But if you knew what you were watching, he got hurt there, and that should have sealed the round if you weren't already scoring that one for Edson, I believe. But I'm not trying to relitigate that or anything. But just the point is that Edson, he went against a lot of people, even people that were fans of his expectations, because he kind of did an Aldo in a sense where his pace management, he actually made the weight a lot easier than we all thought. And his pace management and composure has actually gotten better later in his career, and either shows to be more diverse and or to just reincorporate the diverse tools that we hadn't seen in a while. For Barbosa, more so just incorporating the boxing and focusing on those layers, showing different setups to his right hand, which has always been potent off the counter, as I see it being potent off the counter here. Plenty of people have countered Giga's leg kicks. He likes to counter kicks, but plenty of people have countered Giga's leg kicks and kicks in general with right hands. And left hands in general seem to get through at a high percentage, both against southpaw and orthodox fighters. And what left hooks really have chewed up Giga a lot in the kickboxing. They might, he might have still won the fights or this or that, but left hooks got there a lot. And What's Barbosa's best punch? His left hook, and or arguably now maybe his right hand / counter right hand. I think those are going to be able to do the trick. Maybe he could, if anyone's going to land a spin kick here, it's also going to be Barbosa, especially against taller fighters when they get tired. And we've seen Barbosa like wrestle to death in round 3, hit both Khabib to lesser effect, granted, and Kevin Lee, which put him on skates. In fights, he was getting dominated and losing in ways that Chikadze won't do. Barbosa not only gets the chin thing perhaps unfairly lobbied on him, but also a cardio thing unfairly lobbied on him. I think it's just because he looks tired, but he fights tired so well, and he just kind of gets on his bike. He does his like Edson shuffle, and he shows to recover really well. Now, in close rounds, that could be bad because we've seen body language, kind of like Jacare Souza, another Brazilian there, who was getting older and would really kind of gas with his body language, and we've seen fighters lose rounds to body language alone. That is a real thing, whether you or I agree with it, right? So that could be dangerous. But as far as like the overall busy striker and, you know, guys who leave marks, I know Chikadze can be busy and leave some marks, but Barbosa does too, and Barbosa does for longer. Now the dangerous part is early, obviously, because Giga, like I said, with his gas tank, he is most dangerous within those first 2 rounds. That's his points to win. But also because Barbosa, even with that Justin Gaethje fight, you think that like, oh, he got caught cold or whatever, and he did. He went out cold, right? But you forget, like, he actually did have some good check hooks that he ate. He nailed Gaethje with. Obviously, they weren't enough, and Gaethje hit him with that perfect right hand right as he faded into it. And it's Justin freaking Gaethje, right? But the point is that Barbosa does start slow, and that's where he can be stopped. But it's not like he's out of sorts completely either. Like, even in his worst performances, he's still doing good stuff. But that is the danger zone because of his, that's where he's getting his timing, and that's where Chikadze comes out most hot. However, with Chikadze, perhaps fear of gassing him, perhaps fear of the fight going longer, maybe he comes out a little easier, which makes things complicated, perhaps. On reads, especially if you're playing unders or certain unders, right? Now maybe you lose a round and a half off Chikadze not doing that fast start, right? And Chikadze also perhaps puts himself more on the board to space out and win some rounds and then maybe survive if Edson can't put him out. As part of me was thinking decision, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, when Chikadze gets hit hard, he has this like emotional thing where he loves to return. He feels like he has to return. And he's kind of an emotional fighter because, again, a guy who's just traditional martial arts, discipline, respect, the knockout cancer thing. You listen to the guy talk. He's like happy and jovial. But when he's in there, man, and I know fighters have to be, and I get it. I'm not criticizing him, so don't take it the wrong way. But this guy's like not just mean as you need to be. He's kind of an asshole in there. Like, he's doing all the eye rakes, blatant fence grabs. He's doing all the fouls. He's like getting in fighters' faces. Like, he's like pushing people off of clinch breaks when he gets when he loses, he gets frustrated. Which happened even in fights that he won but should have lost in kickboxing. Like, you see him getting frustrated. He doesn't like the clinch break, so he shoves guys on the clinch break like extra just to be an asshole. I'm like, Jesus, dude, you come off like a fucking dick. And I get it. You're ultimate pass. You're a fighter. While you're fighting, you have to be. If that's your thing, do it. But I'm just gonna call it like I see it. You look like a dick. Not even just like competitively mean or hyping it up. Like, he looks like a dick. But yeah, choke-like tactics, breaks, headbutts. Yeah, and I wrote poor sport ? I don't know. Although when he did win, the close decision at Jamal Emmers, he showed a lot of respect to Jamal, which we'll get to. Easy, Sean. But yeah, so I don't know if he's a poor sport or anything, but he's emotional in fights, and that's not good in a 5-round fight with Edson Barbosa, who's tried and true. He's tested. And unless he knocks Edson out in that first 10 minutes, I don't think it happens. I think even if he gets out of round 1, his chances disproportionately go down. In fact, Giga Chikadze, he's never gotten a finish outside of round 1 in MMA. He's gotten a couple in kickboxing, but again, these were against really, really bad fighters who are overmatched, cans, already hurt, etc. Um, but yeah, Chikadze also is pretty tough though too. So like part of me could see him like digging it out maybe, and my under as I played the under, 4.5 minus 130. I think that's the angle here. Whether you're playing Chikadze, I think you hedge it with that, or you're playing Barbosa, especially because Barbosa is more likely to win by decision. So you play Barbosa straight. I'm gonna look to if I can get something close to my even minus 115 line. Then that's good coverage for me, because then if Barbosa loses, it'll probably be by KO under the 4.5 covered there. And if it goes to decision and the under fails, well, Barbosa's probably the winner, so I'm covered there. Or Barbosa wins and knocks him out, like I think so in round 3, like I said in my breakdown, with a right hand left hook return. As Barbosa's been able to get round 3 stoppages in those fashions before. And he just says he looks like shredded, insane, like even more so. His interview, he just sounds. He doesn't sound burnt out like it's another day, like a guy with his resume. Like he knows what this fight is. This is his title run. How he's been looking since dropping that first fight, which you could arguably say, again, he's undefeated at featherweight. He's only 2 years older than Giga Chikadze. Miles. Giga's been fighting since he came out of the wound, right? I mean, how many miles does he have, right? And by the way, Barbosa, if you go to his kickboxing record, which I'm sure there are some cans in there too, but he's got a pretty what is it in front of me? It's like he's 25-3 with 22 by knockout, opposed to Chikadze 38-6 with 22 by knockout. So yeah, higher knockout percentage for Barbosa, because he just has that insane power. I am a little bit worried about the calf kicks, and people have been able to kick Barbosa a lot. And commentary made a big deal of it, but it's hard to tell if any kicks have ever really affected his legs. So there's that. But the jab's worrisome because Giga throws it as a power jab. We've seen Barbosa rock with a jab before, but I want people to be careful about that, because I think we've seen enough people get robbed by jabs at this point to understand that as people get better at throwing the strike / noticing that when this happens, if you notice, fighters tend to not have their eye on the ball and they're moving into it. So there's more factors than just getting simply hit with a jab that go into that. But yeah, that is definitely a worry that Giga's been getting better with that tool, because it's fundamentals over the flash that makes everybody like jizz their pants and suck Giga's cock for. But yeah, I know, long breakdown of the fight, but I really went in and watched. I even went and watched old Barbosa stuff, like I watched Ninja Kawani, Pettis, as those were two of the people you could kind of parallel. Although those fights are both 5 and 10 years away, respectively. And then I watched his relevant stuff too, of course, his last featherweight or his last lightweight fights into all his featherweight fights. So, and then I watched everything possible, MMA and kickboxing for Chikadze. So does that mean I'm going to be right? No, but the play is the under, and I'm going to probably play Edson as well. It's plus 180 on both sides if you like any of those inside the distance. But yeah, all right, next fight. I'll be fast because I don't, as you know, Tom does not watch Tough. I don't know if it was Aaron or who, someone saying it was our job, but I'm just, this is too much fucking MMA, right? Let's relax. Fucking, if I go back, I just watch the fights, if anything, but even that I didn't do. And it's like you're not watching these are low sample size fighters. I'm reading some of the biographies, and I forget, I'm like, what the fuck? Not so much that this guy doesn't have ranks or anything like this, but he said something, I'm like, how old is he? He sounds like just a kid. I'm like, oh, he's 22 years old, like the average age for people on this fucking show. Like, these are such unproven fighters, and they're not even fighting to their unproven potentials because they're in the house. So, like, what is it going to tell us? And I'm going to waste my time for fights I'm not going to be caught dead betting on, because it's really not smart unless you have an inside track. The fuck, the UFC is forcing our hand. It is not our faults for not. This is not work that we're not doing. Unless it's your dedicated beat is tough, then you're not doing the work. My dedicated beat, like I say on the beginning of every show, is breaking down high level MMA, and yeah, there's enough that's getting passed off for that these days that I don't need to make exemptions for anymore. No offense, they will have plenty. These fighters will have plenty of chances to prove themselves for the shitty contracts. They'll be rewarded. Relax, people. They'll get their due, their day, I should say, not their due. But yeah, Brian Battle minus 158, Gilbert Urbina plus 134. I looked at these guys' profiles like 2 or 3 times, and even just before getting on here, and I already forgot it. Dunbar's number, people. I will go with Brian Battle because I've battled. I fucking battled. Yeah, I've battled. I battled. Yeah, Shots at the Art of Drowning EP. AFI shot when they were still good. I'll go with him over Urbina. Brady highest stand, which is funny because I think one of these fighters, it was probably Brian Battle actually. Brian Battle actually goes from highest stand, I think North Carolina. But Brady highest stand, I don't know what he does. I just read his thing too. I'm just pretty sure that Ricky Tercios, who is a Dragon Ball Z fan, I'll go with him. I know he's a popular pick too, popular kid. But, he's got a black belt in Taekwondo, some, I think a brown belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I want to say. He's well-rounded, minus 166, Brady highest stand, plus 140. Yeah, I'll take Tercios. By the way, in his profile, he puts Dragon Ball Z, and then he puts Vegeta. And I respect him for putting Vegeta. I don't think Vegeta gets a lot of shouts, He's got the receding hairline, so he's not cool, which, immediately makes him, a hipster person like myself a fan of his. And Vegeta, he's super technical. I think, hipster and, analysts like myself would appreciate a Vegeta. He's got a wide variety of attack, real technical attacks, right? Remember when he's fucking up the Ginyu Force? Wow, Dan, you're really nerding out right now. I'm just saying. I got some love, for the Dragon Ball Z, although I still feel like those Nameks were a bunch of pedos. I mean, between Piccolo and Gohan, that whole weird... Mr. Piccolo, Gohan. And even what was that father Namek, the dying Namek on Planet Namek, the big fat one. He had the little sex slave kid, Dende. Jesus, damn, what version of Dragon Ball Z did you watch? I don't know. Listen, the Japanese are crazy, man. And so are those Nameks, apparently. Anyways, before I go down that rabbit hole, ruining your childhood favorites. Hopefully Tercios isn't listening. But, yeah, I'll take Tercios out, though. Kevin Lee, minus 156, versus Daniel Rodriguez, plus 132. D-Rod, which I'm pretty sure is just talking about his penis there. Funny note. I replayed the Thick Willie fight for my girlfriend. And as soon as, Thick Willie does his backflip, which, by the way, he was in backflip midair for so long that my girlfriend was able to see it and respond to it and get the sentence out before he landed. And she was just yelled, well, not for sentence, but she just goes, "Oh my God, free Willie!" and then William Knight finally landed back on the floor. But when I told her the D-Rod thing the last time he fought, we were watching those fights together, I believe, and he knocks out my guy Preston Parsons, and my girl just goes, "Oh, he gave him the rod." So the fact that she gets the immature penis humor makes her a keeper on that front. Again, it's the little things, folks. It's the little things. Speaking of that, D-Rod is a live dog, though. Don't make any assumptions there. He is a live diggity dog, and I was tempted to go with him. He's coming off of facing multiple southpaws or training for southpaws, right? Let me pull it up in my head, right here. Where is it? Yeah, he just fought Preston Parsons, I believe, is southpaw. No, not southpaws. Parsons. Sorry, he is the southpaw. He fought, guys who can, around that 5'9", 5'10" power frame that can go for takedowns against the fence. So he kind of got those looks already, right? And his takedown percentage has improved from Dwight Grant, Dalby, Perry to Parsons. Looks like he switched camps there to Syndicate. So now he's training in Vegas, looks like full time, and looks like he did some active rest, went on a hike on Zion, but pretty much was back at the gym. So he doesn't cut a ton of weight. Again, he actually was a former lightweight too. Although I don't know how former Lee is. We'll see after this fight. I'm still not sold him as a welterweight, but I did pick Lee here Not because of extreme couture bias. That's where he is training. He does look in great shape, but it's hard because he's coming off injuries, right? So that's the wild card here. I'm not sure how he's going to do, but at the same time, Daniel Rodriguez, this is kind of the reasoning for a dog pick that I went with later, and a lot of my picks that I make, which is essentially the better on-paper wrestler and the better on-paper submission grappler inside of the smaller octagon. It's a pretty solid angle that doesn't always win, but is a logical reasoning that I would argue, gun to the head, I'd say wins more than it loses. So, for what that's worth. But also, Kevin Lee, for whatever it's worth, 4-1 against UFC level southpaws. Of course, I'm including Kyle Prepelic, and the one he did lose to was, of course, Rafael Dos Anjos, who, again, was also a former lightweight or a guy who could go between both. But RDA, of course, former world champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, underrated wrestler, so on and so forth. But his Rodriguez's striking has really stepped up since the regional scene. Does some really good boxing. You know, that Kevin Lee himself said in his interview with Aaron B on TSN was like saying he's got that Mexican boxing style that I don't do well against, and it's kind of scary to hear him admit that. But admit that he also kind of underestimated who he thought Daniel Rodriguez was. People on the street been telling him who D-Rod is, whatever that means. But he is, the 4-1 against UFC southpaws. What was I going to say? Sorry, I'm going to try to push this. He is this is also a stylistic thing. So not just the grappler in the smaller cage, but style-wise is who's faced this style more. Oh, yeah, I was talking about boxing. Sorry, boxing. So that's a little worrisome because Daniel Rodriguez does stuff like L-steps, and he can walk you into stuff and counters. And he does some of his best punches off the back foot. Even when he's kind of parallel and square and his back's against the cage, like he can still generate power and accuracy enough to be really dangerous. And that's definitely a worry against a guy who's going to be looking to push his back to the fence in Kevin Lee, right? So Kevin Lee is going to have to watch out for knockouts there. Daniel Rodriguez appears has got underrated balance and takedown defense, understanding, seems to have a good feel for his hips, etc. But I would feel like he does more guillotine threats than like straight up wrestling fundamentals. Like, you don't really see him push down the head or limp leg or for a double, like he knows what underhooks is and to spread his base, but I also see him drop down for guillotines or just threaten for guillotines and work or not work. So that'll be interesting. I know Lee can be susceptible to front choke threats, but he's got to be hurt and or tired. And with it being a 3-round fight, I think he'll be tired toward the end if he doesn't get a finish. But I don't think he'll be tired enough to fall into submission. I think you got to worry about him more being clubbed and subbed if he does get subbed, because he definitely will get clubbed at. That's the question: is Daniel Rodriguez going to hit him? And Rodriguez, again, underrated, better than you think. 10th planet purple belt for whatever that's worth. But yeah, he also is technically the one taking this fight on short notice. He also is never technically fought a wrestler, much less a wrestler on that level. Preston Parsons and Mike Perry were the best takedown threats. Preston Parsons, who most of y'all probably never heard about, most submission threat. Well, he fought Tim Means. Tim Means got underrated ground game. But he guillotined him, right? But again, Tim Means, even though he does actually try to wrestle more than he gets credit for. Again, not a wrestler, even though he's underrated in that department. So yeah, I feel like a D-Rod, it's 50-50 if it wins. He has to finish most of the time, so it's either finish or bust for him more than likely. Although I could see a scenario where D-Rod wins the decision, where they're not rewarding Kevin Lee for his takedowns and they're crediting his back takes as just positional changes, which that's where we start to get in arguable territory depending on what else happened in the round and other contexts, at least for me. But again, damage is the number one criteria, as it should be, and as it should be followed. So there are some paths there for D-Rod, but it's pretty much a dogger pass / finish or bust for D-Rod and dogger pass from a betting perspective. Good luck if you're playing the dog. You shouldn't be playing with a favorite, but I am going to pick Lee again. 4-1 against southpaws, better grappler, submission grappler, wrestler in the small cage. And who's faced what style more of? Who's seen more of who? Kevin has seen more than Rodriguez. Kevin has also seen more of what Rodriguez brings than what Lee will bring to Kevin. Even in that syndicate group of the pictures he posts, I don't see any like standout wrestlers that compare right with Kevin Lee. So, not saying there's not, just saying any recognizable ones from the stuff that D-Rod has posted. So, my pick is Kevin Lee, and I stayed away. Andre Petrosky, minus 560. I guess he grew up doing karate and wrestling, but also has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, I believe, whereas Michael Gilmore, plus 420, man. More looks like a karate kickboxing background, so I'll go with Petrosky as the big favorite. No, nothing. Apparently he's like the one team Ortega guy, I think. All right, next fight. Mahmoud Murdoch, minus 620. Gerald Meerschaert, plus 460. I think I submitted Murdoch for staff picks, which bums me out because I'm a big Gerald Meerschaert fan. I know he follows me too, but even before that, big GM3 fan. So I'm going to be rooting for him here. I'll probably sprinkle it on him for the shits of it because that line is stupid wide and hope that Gerald fucking catches a sub or something. But even in the small cage, I feel like a guy that moves around like Murdoch and is disciplined like that is on paper probably one of the worst stylistic matchups for Gerald, unfortunately. So even with my bias, as much as I want to pick him, I still have to be honest there and pick Murdoch. But you best believe my heart is with Meerschaert. And if I sprinkle on anybody, it's going to be Meerschaert. I stayed away from this one. But I am going to bring in a guest to talk about this fight. Really want to talk about this fight. If it's popular, we'll see if we can get these kind of guest breakdown segments. Sometimes these people, they tend to drop by, and I figured it's kind of crazy to talk to them, and they usually say really wacky shit when they're on this show. And why not, why not see what they think about fights? And between I don't know if it's WMEING's purchase of the UFC, but there's been a lot more celebrity involvement with these UFC fights and voices. And basically, folks, I got Sly Stallone here. He wanted to break down a fight. I said pick any fight, and Sly, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. That's very kind. It's very kind. Kind intro. The truth is, WIMG stuff aside, Dana White's got some pictures of one of my coffee table parties, so, let's just say I gotta represent. But I love fights. I used to box as Rocky, and, I like Meerschaert here, like Rocky, Meerschaert's a southpaw. He's American, and he's fighting a Russian.
Sly Murdoch's actually Uzbekistanian.
Oh, yeah. Same thing. I better not say that. I used to get my ex-wife, Bridget Nielsen, mad when, I used to call her Uzbekistanian.
Bridget Nielsen, the actress, Sly?
Yeah.
She's Danish.
No shit. I wonder why she never left. Anyways, I like Meerschaert here. You say he's the biggest dog, but I got a little bit of a dog in me. Sly likes the dog, and I like Meerschaert here. He seems like a good guy. He plays the saxophone. Maybe I saw that viral video. To be honest, that's why I'm aware of Gerald. He had his shirt off. Sly likes that. Sly. I think that Meerschaert would be, in that form, would be a perfect fixture of one of Sly's coffee table parties with a glass. Sly likes to crawl up underneath. We know what you do, Sly. We don't need to go down that hill here. So you're picking Meerschaert. Are you picking him by submission, Sly? By knockout? What's the pick? Murdoch's backed by Mayweather. No, I don't like Mayweather.
You don't?
I don't want to get into that. I want to get in trouble. Sly says a lot of things that get Sly into trouble these days, so we want to back off of that.
All right, so you're taking Meerschaert. Okay, all right, thanks, Sly. On that note, let's get your ass out of here, Sly. I don't want to take off any of your time. I know you got a hard out.
Yeah, hard out is right. You know what else is hard?
Sly, let's not talk about your HGH regiment. You are sounding much better. Maybe we'll get you back on for another one in case, in case you didn't already upset the audience. You know what my fight of the night is, Sean? Not now. We're gonna get to that one. We're gonna get to that one. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Connery's not Connery. Jesus Christ. Stallone's taking Mearshart. I got Murdoch. We'll see. I should attach the bets to these. You know. All right. Let's go. We got Alessio De Chirico minus 230. Abdul Razak Al Hassan plus 190. Wow. Let's see. Yeah, I'm taking De Chirico here, but I'm not as confident as the line. Like, you can never bet Al Hassan. I think everybody's finally learned that because it's just like everyone got burned at him being an inflated favorite, and you got to bet the 1 round KO prop because that's how he gets it done anyways. And you realize if he doesn't get it done that way, you're effed. But in his defense, he's deceptively, for a guy that gasses and is like done after round 1, he's deceptively tough and hard to get out of there. So part of me feels like he could get like a 10-8 against De Chirico in round 1, and then lose 10-9 the other one for a draw. Now, I don't think I've ever officially picked a draw, and I'm not going to here. My pick's going to be De Chirico by decision. But if Razak gets a 10-8 and De Chirico survives, again, you might want to hit the draw line. Sometimes they're late on adjusting that. But I never play draw lines, ever, rarely ever, but I may actually sprinkle on this one. I don't know why. I just got one of those weird feelings. That and, seeing De Chirico as a favorite this big kind of sketches me out. Yeah, he's almost over $1 than what he opened at. I don't know about that. First, the 2 official dog plays are up. Wellington Turman minus 136. Sam Alvey plus 116. Yeah, when I was saying there's Out Cold and there's Out Cold Family Guy style, I was referring to Wellington Turman and his last knockout. Maybe even his last 2, he just went flat dead like Family Guy style. Like Bahamundez, his opponent in the Contender Series, like that guy went out Family Guy style. Chan Sung Jung, when he got elbowed by Koreans by Yair Rodriguez, he went out Family Guy style. And so did Turman, who is 2-2 against UFC level southpaws. Of course, the 2 southpaws he beat, he out-grappled, and were grapplers themselves, like Marcus Perez, who does do spinny stuff for striking, but of course he just fights in imitations, so you really can't get much from that. Although at the time I wanted to think that he earned it from Carl Roberson, but I don't disagree with that decision, especially damage and criteria, that he should have lost that. And of course his other one that he won, which I didn't see, Marcial Alessandre, who flunked out of the UFC from the Tough Series, is technically the other UFC level southpaw he did beat. And of course he got knocked out by Bruno Silva, who is a southpaw. Granted, that was grounded pound, which was also troubling because he ended up trying to grapple and he ended up on bottom and was okay with that, right? And when you look at Sam Alvey, not only is it, from a stylistic perspective, difficult because Turman is an aggressive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who is dependent on getting things to the ground via a body lock clinch, which is Alvey's specialty and wheelhouse, being a Team Quest fighter / I think he's the captain now. He's always been good in the clinch. He's always had a high, above average, above 80 percentile takedown defense rating. And even when he is taken down, if you look at the majority of those fights from beginning to end of his UFC career, not all of them, but the majority, even though the guys who take him down and or take him down more than him and or take him down when Alvey isn't credited with a single takedown, if you look at who has more control and top time, it's Alvey. It's because a lot of guys end up on bottom trying to take him down and or end up on bottom and getting finished, a la Dylan Andrews, who had that happen to him, right? We're talking about that reverse of the Turman there. So it's very deceptive there. And looking at the way Turman throws, he keeps his left hand low before and after throwing and retracts it slow. He pretty much is asking for right hooks, right hands in general. Every right hand from any stance is pretty much hit him. There's not a right hand that his style does not invite. And Alvy's a southpaw, but we know that he can knock people out with his left hand, sure. It's a good follow-up shot, and it's a good shot off the attack, but coming forward or off the counter, it's that right hook that really makes that money. And I know Alvy's he's 0-5-1, but he really looked in the shape of his life when he went back down to middleweight finally for Julian Marquez, and I know he got choked unconscious. But you forget, he actually did really well in that fight. He was more aggressive than he normally was, all like a Woodley Luque situation. And except he really rocked and had stumbling and back, but he had Julian Marquez stumbling and backpedaling at the end of round 1. So who knows what could have happened, So it was and I picked Marquez and cash there, but I'm just saying, in Alvy's defense, it's not like he's shot and not fighting and not swinging, which he's not swung in multiple parts of his career, because Alvy can be inconsistent like that, but the things he is consistent about that are hardlined into his style, I believe could be kryptonite for a guy like Turman. So I think Sam Alvey cashes, and I think by KO cashes. I played them both, KO by plus 300, and I played inside the distance in another house at plus 275 since it was close enough, and it allowed for that prop. I sprinkled just on those in each house were available. And as for my odds checker play, of course, I threw a unit down for plus 116 on Alvy. All right. Next fight. Dustin Jacoby minus 174, Darren Stewart plus 146. I wanted to do something with this, and this was another fight where, like, could I see a draw here too? I'm like, no. Because even though Jacoby probably won't, he's durable, and he's durable, but could get Stewart out of there. Whereas Stewart, if he's in a position to earn a 10-8 on Jacoby, it's got to be like him full mounted throwing elbows, and at that point maybe he can just convince the ref to stop it, right? So I don't think that route's there. All right, easy there, 10-8 whisperer or draw whisperer there. No, I do think it's going to be a greasy decision, though. That is going to be tight frames. Because you're going to get a lot of Darren Stewart power shots, and Darren Stewart pushing against the cage looking for takedowns against Jacoby. Now, granted, Darren Stewart isn't as tall, or maybe even as experienced or as talented in that department as Maxim Grishin, who is a heavyweight to light heavyweight, whereas Stewart's a middleweight to light heavyweight swing. And so is Jacoby technically, although Jacoby is a big, and I don't think he can ever make middleweight now. Now he's like a fully light heavyweight guy. So I'm not sure how much success Stewart will have there. So I'm going to go with Jacoby, who I was looking to parlay with somebody. But I think it's going to be greasy. I couldn't find anybody I wanted to parlay with. I think all the chalk is a little too overinflated. We'll see. Maybe I'll put something fun together where I string like 3 or 4 chalk pieces together. If I had Jacoby in there, I wouldn't need as many for value-wise and for risk-wise. Because, again, this is going to be maybe slightly even closer than the odds layout. But I'm going to go with Jacoby here. And the judges to reward his cleaner striking. JJ Aldridge, minus 360. Vanessa Demopoulos, plus 290. Yeah, I'm going to go with JJ Aldridge. She's the better striker. Demopoulos obviously has competed in grappling as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but Aldridge, no slouch. She is a black belt herself, as her leg dexterity from Taekwondo, and black belt there translates into that black belt on the floor. I will take Aldridge. No strong read on the fight. Stayed away, although she could be a parlay piece too. Mana Martinez minus 280. Guido Canetti plus 230. I feel like it's funny. The 3 times I've gambled in Guido Canetti fights, 2 of them were for him to win, and were probably like his only 2 wins in the UFC. And then the other one was an inside the distance play against him against Kyung Ho Kang, or by submission, and that cashed. So I'm really good with my Guido Canetti reads for or against him. But I didn't get too deep into this one. With Mana Martinez, I know Mana Martinez, I believe he recently lost his coach. He was one of the, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, under Solis. So, between what we saw with what happened to a lot of Falls fighters as well as Sean Tompkins fighters, you tend to see a lot of losses come from an active coach abruptly being lost, which makes sense. I'm going to pick Mana Martinez. I was rooting for him on Contender Series. I'm going to root for him here, especially now. But, that is an intangible to watch out for. But, Kennedy's a southpaw, but he's older, and he gets finished when he loses a lot. So, yeah, picks Martinez. Lastly, but not leastly, Jamal, my fight of the night. Sorry, I put you guys through that. Do anything to try to fucking cheer myself up and make this fun, because I've been borderline wanting to walk away. But Jamal Emmers minus 156, Pat Sabatini plus 132. It's funny. All the fights I was looking at to play, I ended up playing. Like me and Aaron, sometimes we do this for fun. When we, like I told you, we like to talk after our pre-shows on Saturday before the fights, and we'll often, even though the fodder is starting, they're playing broadcast fodder, we'll like look ahead to the next week and talk about what we're looking at. Pretty much everything I'm looking at, I ended up playing here. So it'll probably be no surprise if my guy's listening. But yeah, I ended up pulling the trigger on Pat Sabatini. I did do my due diligence on this one on both sides, though, even though I figured as to so why. Now, Jamal Emmers deserves to be favorite. He is a long-time prospect for a reason. I love the experience he has. I would like to think that he's learning from it and turning a corner, as he really showed to step up his pace in his last fight. Although he almost outpaced himself for a second, like he was gassing too much, and then had to manage it. Luckily enough, he was able to get the takedowns to manage that, as his wrestling base has always been some kind of a base to his style, I would argue, even when he doesn't use it, which he's trending not to. He's starting to trend more towards the striking, and perhaps that's why I like Sabatini here. If Emmers can keep his range, really with anybody, he's going to do well. Emmers, the only people he's proven to have problems with are people with size parity. That's who he's lost to and or had the hardest fights, and to his own admission. He hates that. He really likes to be the taller guy, and he's insulated by that. And when guys do get in on him, it doesn't be too worried about being out-grappled, because he's very well-rounded. He comes from a wrestling base, and he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. However, Pat Sabatini is the more diverse, the more accomplished, and by the eye test, also, I believe, the more better wrestler. He is also the higher-ranked Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Daniel Gracie, for whatever the F that's worth. I say that not so much as the Gracie name, but because Daniel Gracie, of course, trained Paul Felder. A lot of other fighters. He was more like, I guess, Cesar Gracie, where he trains a lot of MMA fighters, so he's actually applying it for whatever that's worth, not just, selling packages and gis and shit. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm not trying to bump up Daniel Gracie by saying that. I'm just saying that he's a more higher ranked black belt, Sabatini, and a Pan American champion, competition black belt, has actually competed and won. So again, with that formula that I like to go with, better wrestler, on paper wrestler, better on paper submission grappler in the smaller cage. And even though Emmers is the more experienced man, kind of like similar with Lee and Rodriguez, even though, again, complete opposite. It's dog or pass there. And same with here, by the way. It's just I'm on the dog, both picking and playing. That's the only difference. The theory is the exact same, where, again, Emmers the more experienced guy, but when you look at actual wrestlers and submission fighters like that, like, Sabatini's fought more. I think Sabatini's even fought more jiu-jitsu guys. Sabatini's fought Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts. He's submitted, out-grappled, out-positioned, beat, decisioned. Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts, judo black belts, jiu-jitsu black belts, as well as fellow wrestlers, albeit on a lower level. Whereas Emmers, I think he's always been the better wrestler. And I know he has more UFC wins, but it's like you're counting Jay Cuccinello. If you can't see it, I'm doing the Dan Tom jerk-off gif. You're counting Chris Avila. Still doing that gif. Obviously Corey Sandhagen, which is a good win, but that was like so early in Sandhagen's career. Sandhagen was competing outside of his weight division. And yes, Alexander Hernandez, which I don't know how well that even looks these days. And again, like Corey Sandhagen, Hernandez too was competing outside of his division, as he obviously was too big for 45, which is where that fight took place. I haven't seen highlights for a while, nor could I track down any, but I can't even remember who did the wrestling either. And it might have been Emmers, the one doing the wrestling, who took away the split. So who knows if he even won with it being a split. And again, we know that wrestling is, Sandhagen probably hate to hear this, but his weakness, especially back then early in his career. What do you call Hernandez can grapple and would earn a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but he wasn't then. It was literally like their third fight apiece, like in 2013, like almost 9 years ago. And those are his most credible wins and closest things to talented grapplers. Let me see. I don't want to miss something, piss people off. And again, I'm not saying that he didn't face any good grapplers and anybody that he fought didn't wrestle in high school, maybe even college. But there's no names that pop out to me. All the fights that I was able to watch and track down, it just, and you look at his style, Emmer's style, I think that having that wrestling advantage is an important insulation for him, just like the reason why when he doesn't have the insulation of the striking edge and length, that bothers him because he needs those advantages. His nickname's Pretty Boy. He's got his own version of Carolina where he does his cute thing to the camera when it comes to him, right? But even though he's 32, which, by the way, folks, he's 32. You forget that. He's not like he's like this some young kid. Like Sabatini's the younger guy. He's 30. But Jamal Emmers comes off as much younger. There's almost like an immature thing. Not so much he's immature, but it's like he comes off as like the young veteran who's still young, but they're trying to act hard and older than, like, I don't want to even say this is like an insult because I like Sergio, but it reminds me like early Sergio Pettis, and Sergio Pettis was obviously still kicking ass and doing well, like Jamal Emmers, winning more than he lost, obviously. But, like, he really was thrown onto it young, and he was just like, and except with Sergio, he, aside from maybe that Caceres fight or something like that, like, he never really had mental breaks or really broke, in fights, I don't think. So, and not saying Emmers will, but he just seems like he's got that layer, like, perhaps he could be. Like, if you're confident to him, I think you can fuck him up. And because he starts off fights confident, but if you really look at the body language of the fight itself, he has to find his way into fights a bit, before he gets comfortable. Even in his most recent, arguably corner turning performance, which, can you really say that against a short notice bantamweight who doesn't do anything that the things Pat Sabatini's going to do, and Vince Cachero, who, again, I think he was like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, not a wrestler. But yeah, he has to build himself into fights. And Pat Sabatini, a small bad habit I've seen of his. I know he had a bad look because he looked like he was getting tired, and he was getting tired of his last fight against Tristan Connolly, and Connolly got a bad position, put him in a bad position toward the end there. And that's actually a moment like that's actually happened in past fights, in a past fight before Sabatini. But I've also seen him do like 4 rounds straight at like a crazy torrid, like Khabib style wrestling pace, and Khabib's one of his heroes, by the way, and has tried to incorporate a lot of his moves as time has went on. By the way, he as far as that meta, to get at meta and the wrist trapping and other things too, the way he chains off singles. By the way, also one of the few guys like Gamrot that will actually work off that low single, which if he doesn't run into a knee from Emmers, I think will work great with Emmers' long legs and long stance. He can reach down for that low single and chain. And we're going to see if Emmers can defend takedowns, and then I think that his jabs and leg kicks are going to piece Sabatini up because of the reach difference, and Sabatini doesn't look like... looks like A, he's heavy on that front leg, and B, does not check or defend the front leg well. So look for Jamal to get off that way. Well, I'll get off that way, Jamal. Easy, Connery. But if he's not able to defend the takedowns, or if he's not able to deter the grappling, then I think Sabatini's just an animal. And for 3 rounds, he can either dog out a really greasy decision or get the submission. I know Emmers hasn't been submitted for a minute, or it's from guard, but Sabatini, he's really active from his back. Not just, again, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Daniel Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Pan American champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. But, and again, I'm not trying to, like, stand the Danaher guys or anything like that, believe me. But he is an avid Danaher Death Squad leg locker dude as far as, like, following and implying those. So it's not just a jiu-jitsu guy, he's a jiu-jitsu guy that wrestles, and not all jiu-jitsu guy wrestles, or he's not just a jiu-jitsu guy, but he's a jiu-jitsu guy that goes for leg locks. And even though it's becoming much more popular, there's still a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, especially in MMA, that don't do / never had the time for leg locks. So the fact that he checks all 3 of those boxes, and again, even though Emmers is the more experienced fighter and deserves to be the favorite, specifically that style, we've not seen him answer that call, and we're in the small cage. I can't help but go with... I feel like this is a dog or pass spot. I feel like Jamal Emmers absolutely deserves to be the favorite, but I also believe that this is a dog or pass spot, regardless of the result. because both guys are starting to look to turn the corners. And even though I don't expect Sabatini to knock him out or get anything crazy done on the feet, Sabatini has shown that he can counter jabs and like throw a pretty good counter right hand, and looks like power. He only got 2 knockout wins, but looks like the power starting to come later in his career. Not so much with the results, although you could, I guess, make that argument. There's not enough information there. More that his technique, which makes sense. He's more comfortable. His technique's looking crisper from both stances as he's starting to show southpaw looks. And when he does go southpaw, he'll either throw a left high kick, or when he's orthodox, kind of like Giga, throw the power side from southpaw. Or when he does throw spin stuff, he'll throw from orthodox, because he has also a black belt as well in Tang Sudo, which is kind of like Taekwondo, probably more closer to like the traditional martial art it's based off. It's hard. All the martial arts kind of got bastardized and militarized or sportitized, if that's even a word, with the Taekwondo, the more popular Korean martial art, right? At least to Americans. Tang Sudo, I had some friends that did that one. I wasn't quite as familiar personally. Shout out to my guy Kevin Sanders, who was one of my main training partners and a black belt in that. But yeah, needless to say, he's familiar with spinning stuff too, and he's surprisingly accurate, even though he doesn't throw it that committed. It doesn't commit to him that much. I do say those two things is because they attack the same side of the head, the right side of the head, which Jamal Emmers has a really bad habit of drifting that way. He got knocked out by Bueller, Julian Erosa, Cameron from Ferris Bueller, a.k.a. on the Contender Series, because he leaned that way. And I don't know if he's learned from that, because both against Chikadze and against Cachero, he was getting tagged by left hooks by drifting into that side, and he also got tagged by counter right hand, a real similar one that actually I've seen Sabatini throw. Chikadze actually stunned him with 2 in their fight. For whatever that's worth. Again, Jamal Emmers is a deserved favorite. If he can keep it at range, he should be able to piece Sabatini up to a decision. But at these odds, I played Sabatini at plus 130, which is technically above the plus 125 he opened at, and I sprinkled on Sabatini by submission, which opened at plus 500. I got that in one house. I'm waiting to see if it goes back up to that in another before I pull the trigger. Otherwise, I'll just take a plus 450, I guess. But I really would like the plus 500 for a submission prop, to be honest, as a minimum. Unless it's a lot more of an obvious one. But again, Sabatini, we got to see how Emmers gets up, because in scrambles, he's turtle to his base, which will give Sabatini a back take. Or this guy's really wicked, Sabatini from a front headlock. And that's what I'm curious about, because not even enough guys have been able to wrestle Emmers effectively enough to get him to scramble. So, we got to see him against the style. So I'm gonna take the dog money in the small cage for that. All right. Wow. How do we do on time? 127. This was not expedited. Wow. All right. Sorry about the Stallone impression. That was stupid. It's late, folks. I'm delirious. What are you going to do? It's better than me bitching, right? All right. We're going to go from top to bottom again. Real quick. Another thing I wrote here. I wrote Emmers IQ and inflation. He's made some also poor IQ stuff is another reason why I went with this. Like, he grappled when his team thought he needed the finish, which he ended up needing the finish. He didn't grapple when it was obvious and the takedown was there. When he did grapple like strikers like Chikadze and like, even though you could make the argument they still should have won that fight or whatever, the fact is he came on slow and didn't grapple enough when the clear advantage was there. And he's done that in a lot of fights and been able to get away with, when you look back in retrospect and objectively, some really questionable IQ decisions. And you guys know I'm a big, and it's not even his camp, because his camp will call for stuff and he doesn't always do it either. The camp is Pinnacle MMA, which is Bobby Green. And I'm a big Bobby Green fan, but what do I say too? Even though he's the more technical fighter and should win the fight, and I still stand by that, like on things, on certain fights, right? But the fact is, he doesn't make the best fight IQ as far as given the IQs that he's working with the judges, and that's really dangerous. So, and then I wrote the inflation part because I also feel like there's this really, and again, how I could tie this back into the thick Willie thing, and why I feel bad joking about that, even though I'm making an obvious joke. And in my defense, I'm one of the only people who call out the athletic and explosive thing, because I've been calling it out since I was a little kid watching basketball in the NBA in the early 90s, folks. Which I was like, why is the black people always explosive? Why are they athletic when they do something skilled? Why can't they just be skilled? Why does the black guy got to be athletic? You know? And it's this arguably racist, I would say, inflation. It's so embedded, because it's so embedded in we don't even realize it's so embedded in our language, where I think when we see an athletic black dude, we just assume he's really good, you know? Even if he's not, you know? How many times have we seen that just athletic black dude, first round finishes? And it's like, oh, look at this guy. He's got so much, what do they say? Look at all the potential. Like this unfair fucking projection and inflation that we paste upon this person, whatever fucking cucky fantasies we have and stereotypes are embedded about it, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's so fucking strange. And conversely, when they do something very skilled and intelligent and show the good fight IQ, what do they say? Oh, it's so athletic. Look at the athleticism, you know. Anyways, I just feel like that's always been a problem that I've called out since I was a little kid watching the NBA. And more relevantly, I feel like, again, I get why Emmers is a good fighter. He's a deserved favorite. He needs to be turning the corner, but he could be turning a corner here. But if he doesn't, man, if he's not, I feel like this could be one of those cases where it's not that he's not good, but I just think that he might be a victim. And not his fault. Not that he's not good. Not his fault at all. But I think it's a little bit of that kind of weird racist shit that we tend to do to black athletes unfairly. So there's that. All right. On that note, wow, Dan. way to end on a high note there. All right. Recapping picks and plays. Taking Barbosa over Chikadze. Taking Battle. Fucking Battle, man. Over Urbina. Taking Tercios over Highstand, I guess. I haven't watched much of these tough fights, in case you guys just fast forward to this part. I don't watch tough. Avoid all tough. Taking Kevin Lee over Rodriguez, although let's dog or pass. Taking Petrosky over Gilmore, no clue. Taking Murdoch over Mearshart.
Don't worry, Mearshart, I got your back. You got mine.
All right, an easy style. Taking DeChirico over Al Hassan. Oh, this could be a possible draw there. May sprinkle a couple bucks for fun for that, just for the shits. Taking Alvey over Turman, and I played it as well as sprinkled a bit by the KO plus 300 or inside the distance plus 275. Taking Jacoby over Stewart. Taking JJ Aldridge over Demopoulos. Taking Martinez over Canetti. Taking Sabatini over Jamal. Jamal number 2. And I played Sabatini plus 130, as well as Sabatini by sub plus 500. I also played the under 4.5 at minus 115, 1.5 units. I laid heavy on that for my chalk play, and depending on what line I get on Barbosa and or how well I do on... I'll probably still play Barbosa anyways. I'm just more waiting on the line. But part of me, I always try to, these are 2 early underdog plays I have. So the good news is if I want to quit while I'm ahead or chase while I'm behind, I will have that option. So maybe we'll see if I add like the Barbosas or something inside the distance or play them heavier on the line with my hedge already in place for chalk on that under. So that's my game plan. We'll see how it works out for me. Wishing you guys the best of luck. Sorry for the 30-minute longer episode with the weird stuff attached, but I'm in a weird mood, so it's whatever. Weird's better than completely bad, I guess. So we'll take that. And I'm wishing you guys nothing but good and good luck on your picks and plays, as well as with everything else. And always protect your neck.